members of the OG Army. Get those wallets unfolded. Coming up next on the OtherGround live stage, prepare for an eargasm by Passive J and Big Dalton.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to yet another edition of OtherGround Live. I'm Passive J. That's Big Dalton over there. Say hello, Ryan.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is June the 19th. It is a Friday. The week is fucking over. And OJ, like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay.
Yes, indeedy. It is a Friday edition of the OtherGround Live. I see the OG Army is forming up in the chat box. Always good to see you guys here. How'd your day go, Ryan?
It was a Friday. Relatively busy. Just good to be done. How about you there, Jay?
Professionally, it was a pretty good day. Personally, I feel like shit all day, but I don't want to talk about that. That's no big deal. People feel like shit all the time. Yeah, it was a fairly busy day of, making reservations and telling rich people how things are going to be at the club, but relatively uneventful. Unlike the world today, which is full of events, and hopefully we'll talk about some of them. What do you got today, sir?
Well, let's start out. Happy Juneteenth.
Why, thank you very much, sir. It's not my holiday, but it is one that should be. I was surprised to hear that a lot of people have never heard of this. I'm like, really? I mean, I don't think it's called that in a lot of places. Like, I think some places call it Emancipation Day. And I certainly knew that it was the date of emancipation, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize that it was a widespread holiday.
Yeah, that's I guess the problem. I'm totally floored by this. Like, I guess people just grow up differently. But like, I always knew about this.
Well, here's the deal. I live in the suburbs of Detroit. I have for my entire life. So you would think this would be something I would hear of, because obviously it's culturally important to a large percentage of people in a city fairly close to me, which is why I was amazed to find out that it's actually considered a holiday, and it's notated, and it does vary from state to state, from what I understand. But like a whole bunch of them declare it a holiday, and I think like 8 or 9 or 10 of them make it like a bank type holiday.
Yeah, so 47 states recognize it as a holiday. Since 1980, there are between I think 5 to 7 states that have it as an official state holiday. So all state employees are given a day off there, and obviously banks generally kind of follow suit to that. But yeah, it's interesting to me that people don't know about this one.
Yeah, and Homelander mentioned that he knows a lot of black people that they honestly don't give a shit about it, and I assume it's the same for me. I mean, I know a lot of black people. Once again, because geographically speaking, it'd be weird if I didn't. And I've never heard them talking about this. It gets mentioned. The only reason honestly that I know that it's a thing at all is because every day this day every year, it's on the TV stations, like, Happy Emancipation Day. I don't think they ever called it Juneteenth or something like that. I don't even know where that comes from.
Well, so interestingly, that actually comes from well over 200 years ago.
Huh.
Well, actually, over 100 years. It's 1890, whatever. It's like 130-ish years. So it was originally called both Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, which was like kind of the official term for it. And at that point, it eventually became Juneteenth. A lot of what people think of Emancipation Day, they're thinking about the anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a totally different thing. But I guess again, must be the way that some people grow up. A lot of people just don't know the history. And since it's not an official, everybody's off holiday, I guess people just don't know what it is. I think it's the same thing. It's so you working at a Jewish mob country club, you probably know when it's like Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah or things like that.
Oh, certainly, yes.
And if you asked that same question, you said that on a random day, people would have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, very true. I was surprised at how many not just holidays, how many terms and phrases that they use on the everyday basis. Some of them not at all. Uh, but it was really weird to get wished a happy New Year when it wasn't even close to the New Year for the first time that happened, for example.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. It's weird anymore how some people grow up. I guess I was kind of lucky because I was kind of, taught up on kind of like black history, black culture from a very young age. So I guess I was lucky in that regard. So it floors me when people just
Which is weird.
don't know these things.
Which is kind of weird when you consider it, because from what I understand, you grew up in the Midwest, correctly?
Well, so here's the thing,
Correctly,
and I
or
think this is where a lot of people have no clue because I don't necessarily talk about my life as much as you do you. But like,
that's my thing.
well, yeah, it definitely is your thing, and this is why like I will get very inflamed by race stuff. So as I was growing up, obviously, I think we've established on this show that my stepdad was pretty much a piece of shit, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh,
And life wasn't great at home. However, his dad was a very good dude. Overall, I ended up having 4 sets of grandparents, and both had both sides, both my mom and my stepdad had gotten divorced and remarried. Well, it just so happened my stepfather's father, who was a World War II vet, married a black woman. And I was very close to those two growing up. It's like I spent a lot of time. They had a farm. Like I went out and did like all of their mowing and stuff like that, like 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. So I grew up hearing about black history from essentially 2 people that lived through it in a time where it wasn't necessarily the proper thing for this World War II vet white man being with a black woman.
Right.
So I got to hear about like not necessarily segregation because that was technically over by that point, but you got a lot about how like people were treated over time, and you get a lot of the stories where it was only a generation or 2 from the point where blacks didn't really have rights. So you hear about things like Juneteenth. You understand at a very young age things about like the N-word and like the idea of just people seeing you differently for everything you do, and how there were members of that family after they remarried and they had a couple additional kids. So I have like step aunts and uncles where they have to teach their kids about like how to interact with the police, and knowing that driving while black and things like that are things that we just wouldn't think of.
Right. So, wow, when you claimed that you were from the streets, it was literal. It's in your blood, man.
Yeah, if you call streets, a nice, farm outside of town with, some cattle grazing and, a gigantic barn, like the old school, like giant fucking barns. Yeah, super from the streets. But I'm about as black as black can be for a white kid from the Midwest.
Well, we know all of those cows were in a gang, man. They look how they cluster together like that. You can't trust cows.
They'll fucking cut you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't quite that rural, but where I grew up, it's a very nice, affluent area. But when I moved here in 1980, when my mom's married my stepdad, it was pretty fucking rural. We lived on a dirt road in like a 3 street by 4 street little subdivision, and it was woods all the way around us for like another mile, a mile in each direction, with like little subdivisions cut off the cut out of the woods and on the main road. Uh, like I could go at the end of my subdivision and go off into the woods, and there's like a couple miles of trails and stuff with a lake back there and stuff that now is a golf course and an industrial park and a old folks home and some condominiums, and it's gotten really built up. But of course that's the kind of shit that happens over almost 40 years. uh Actually, it is 40 years. It'll be 40 years this year. So I've lived in the same spot. Well, I moved other places, but I came back here. It's where I like. But it's so I know what you're saying about the rural stuff, and that's really um, why I consider myself a Midwest person, even though I obviously grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, because I didn't grow up in a very Detroit-like area at all. It's kind of like in the boonies.
Yeah, it's interesting how far behind some of those areas are over time. Obviously, everywhere is getting better, but no, like everywhere isn't good.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know there was no black people in my neighborhood when my mom married my stepdad. Um, I saw my first black person ever in like I want to say third grade. We had one black person. Then I hit middle school and there's like a half a dozen black kids in the middle school. Then you moved to high school, which had a little bit of Pontiac in the school district. So there's probably like 20 or 30, but that's out of like 300 students. So even then, it was less than the amount that you would expect. Of course, you go one school district over in the Pontiac, it's like 80-90% black, and the other 10% or 10 or 15% is Hispanic. Uh, and who knows what my school district's like now? So many different. It's really a melting pot. This city is. White people, black people, Chinese people, a whole bunch of different Middle Eastern types of people. It's interesting. I like it. Diversity is really cool. I used to be able to eat all kinds of interesting foods. Not so much, but I like being in a diverse neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of that now. I'm still pretty much in a very kind of white suburban place, but it's much more diverse, from where I came from, like where I grew up, town of little over 5,000 people, maybe, one black person, two Asian people, like per grade of school.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how it was for me when I grown up. And of course, I say that it's a very diverse area, but it does vary from city to city around here. Like I don't think there's any black people or Middle Eastern. I think everybody on my street's white. I don't know. I didn't go up whole house to house, but and it's still a gradual process. Like they built a Hindu temple about a mile and a half from me. It's beautiful too. Holy shit! I kind of want to go in just to check it out. But I'm not sure if that's allowed if you don't, if you're not part of that church. But and it's cool. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if this is like this every place because I haven't lived in a ton of other places. But there are a shitload of churches in my area, like in my immediate area, and there always has been. In my immediate area, there's one about 3 blocks down the main road from me. Then another couple blocks on the other side. And you go around the corner. There's a third one. Then you go another 2 blocks. There's a fourth one. And in the neighborhood behind me, there's a fifth one. I can think of honestly at least 6 churches within 1 mile of me right now.
That
Is that
sounds a little
normal?
no, that's definitely not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not normal. But back to the Hindu temple, like if you go and you just want to
Yeah.
like check it out, like Hindus are usually pretty nice people, Jay.
I would assume so. I just didn't want to be rude. I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't be be like yelling at me or anything like that. But I'm just not sure if that's like a thing that's normally done.
Well,
So
no, it's a human thing of going like, hey, this. I was very intrigued by how this place looks. Like I would just like to take a look around. If you want to, tell me things about the place, that would be awesome.
yeah, I mean, uh, I remember drinking beer and smoking pot in their parking lot while it was being constructed. We figured that'd be a good spot since it's being built, so no one would actually be there at night and no reason to investigate it. So,
Yeah,
which
you
turned
might
out to
want to
not
leave
be
that part
true, by
out.
the way.
You might not want to bring that part up. You don't go up and be like, "Hey, I used to get really high here. Can I check out like what you guys ended up building?"
Yeah, and then there's also a couple few Middle Eastern churches that are like literally like another couple miles down the road that've been built over the years, and they keep on being like built and then like added on to and added on to and added on to. Then they built another church next to that church. Fucking, it's a very sizable contingent, and I had to laugh because when they first built it, um, there was a small house next door to like on the edge of their property, and this is on a main road and this small house prominently flew an American flag and then a "Don't Tread on Me" flag underneath that, and then I think some other sort of weird flag underneath that. And they were so upset that this Middle Eastern, I keep on calling it a Middle Eastern temple thing because I don't know which religion it actually is. I haven't stopped and read the sign. I just drive by it occasionally. But they were so upset that this thing was next door to them. Part of it was justified because they didn't build enough parking for this shit, and these guys would park anywhere. They were parking right on the side of the main road, all the way like down for a half a mile, just cars lining the road where no one's supposed to be parking at all. And heaven help you if you went near the place while they were leaving because there was a goddamn traffic jam. Eventually, but they would get so upset that like they would literally stand in their yard on the edge of the yard whenever there's a service, so to make sure they didn't park in front of their house. Eventually, the cops had to show up and like just direct traffic whenever there's a service. Uh, Years later down the road, they installed a light there, and then surprisingly enough, the people in the little house next door fucking disappeared, and apparently, I'm guessing the temple made them an offer they couldn't refuse because they built more temple fucking there on their house. So it had a happy ending.
Yeah, fair enough. Those crazy Middle Eastern churches.
Those crazy Middle Eastern churches. I don't know. Other than the traffic that was a pain in the ass, I don't got any problem with them building that stuff either. I've often mentioned, I'm kind of envious of religious people. I don't really believe in that stuff, and I kind of wish that I did because it seems very comforting. It would be nice to believe that there's a God out there looking out for me, and as long as I do good, in the end, I'll be rewarded for it. And that when you die, you don't really die. You go someplace else and live a good life and see all your loved ones and such. But honestly, I've seen zero proof of it, and it's hard for me to believe in something that the only proof of it is some other guy telling me that, trust me, it's true.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but I'm never going to downplay someone for believing what they believe, and that also doesn't necessarily mean that I will ever believe anything they have to say. But, it's whatever.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I consider myself agnostic because I think there's probably something out there. It seems really random that this all came just by chance. I guess I wish there was something out there. If that's the type of agnostic. So I'm hoping I'm wrong. But I guess that's enough religion stuff. That's not what we really want to talk about. What else you got, Ryan?
There's actually
first subject.
Yeah, there's actually a follow-up to an earlier story that we talked about. We were talking about Columbus being a piece of shit. You said, hey, how long before they're going to rename Columbus, Ohio? There actually is a drive to do just that, to rename Columbus, Ohio, Flavor Town.
Flavor
Town.
I don't. Flavor Town?
Yep.
Like the flavor. Oh, Jesus Christ. You mean like Guy, whatever his Ferrari or whatever his name is like going to be their new mascot? We're going to Flavor Town.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually get, a city mascot, but there is a petition underway to rename Columbus, Ohio, Flavor Town.
Why? I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand why they would want to change it from Columbus. If they want to do that, that's fine. I think it's kind of silly, but whatever. Yeah, he was an asshole, but fucking, you don't need to change all the letterhead on the fucking city's paperwork. But why Flavor Town?
Because of Guy Fieri, actually. So the quote...
It is? You're shitting me.
Why not rename the city Flavor Town? The new name is twofold, the petition adds. For one, it honors Central Ohio's proud heritage as a culinary crossroads and one of the nation's largest test markets for the food industry. Secondly, Chef Celebrity, I didn't know that was a word, Guy Fieri was born in Columbus.
Fuck them. Yeah, good. Change it to Flavor Town. I don't give a shit. That's the stupidest thing I ever fucking heard, and I'm going to enjoy laughing at their asses for years to come. I mean, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's almost as good as that
crazy world, dude.
It's almost as good as that country that opened up the petition to name like the new ship of the fleet or whatever it was, and the one that won was Bodie McBoatface.
I think that was England. I think it was. Yeah, I remember that. That's fucking hell. And they wouldn't honor their contest. They wouldn't name the ship that. So they're assholes too.
And speaking of petitions like that,
you follow through with that.
So there's also the petition out there that's calling for statues of Dolly Parton to replace all of the Confederate leaders in Tennessee.
Well, I certainly have no problem with that. I always thought her tits were way too huge and her hair was way too big when she was in her prime. I couldn't stand her hairstyle, but she's actually a very pretty lady, and from what I understand, a really, really good person. So, I know she does that book thing. Any kid that wants books, she'll fucking send them books. So I don't have any problems with that at all.
And it'll give birds somewhere to nest.
Yeah. A couple options actually. Uh, but yeah, I don't know why they pick her over like dozens and dozens of other people. I mean, but I guess, why not? I suppose.
For the same reason as
I don't know.
Flavortown.
Flavortown, yeah, because there's a big pile of crazy going around. Now, the latest thing I saw was, and God, I hope this is a joke meme, where it says, statue toppling ultimate level, and it shows Mount Rushmore. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, that's got to, that bothers me because as silly as it is, if you give someone the idea, there's gonna be an asshole that runs with it and tries to take it serious. And holy fuck, dude, come on, don't mess with Mount Rushmore. I haven't seen it yet.
So Mount Rushmore, like I'm torn on it because it's just in person, it's really not that impressive. Like you say
Oh,
you
you
haven't seen
really?
it, but yeah, like you always
No.
get the idea in these pictures and like postcards, everything you've ever seen, that it's going to be this just like grandiose, like there's these giant presidents carved into this beautiful mountain. And it's just it's not really that impressive.
Hmm.
Like there's
I've seen it
definitely
on
some
pawn stars.
presidents like carved into
Yeah.
a mountain, but it's not like it's not the scale that you would imagine. Like it's one of those things that you go and you're like, oh, I guess that's cool.
Well, see, yeah, the thing is, of course, it now that you mention it, makes sense really because it wasn't supposed to be heads; it was supposed to be complete statues, like bodies and shit. So they weren't making the heads gigantic because they had plans to make the whole fucking thing, and they needed room for the rest of the body. Uh, and plus, it never got finished in the first place. Once they realized they weren't going to get funding for the entire do the whole bodies, and that they were going to go off the heads, they still weren't done. I think. I'd have to go back and read my history on it, but it was a project that almost didn't happen at all. So
Well, yeah,
it was very under.
they were going to work on Howard Taft, but there just wasn't room.
There wasn't room for him to start out. uh, yeah. So that's kind of a bummer. But I guess there's so many other statues to get to before they run around get to that one in the first place. There's probably nothing to worry about.
Well,
Next
yeah,
thing you know, there'll be a.
and good luck pushing over a mountain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they blow it up or some stupid shit like that. They talk about doing that because apparently that is not the only thing that the people have ever carved into the mountainside. I couldn't tell you what state it is, and it's been a year since I read it. But there's apparently like a Civil War mural carved into the side of a cliff someplace, and it looks pretty impressive. And for years, there's been like drives to try to get it removed, and that you just have to blow up the side of the fucking cliff, I assume, to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear about that happening within the next month or so. I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't been brought up now since with all this shit going on.
Yeah, but these people that actually try to do these things, like, you think they're really going to figure out like proper, explosives and demolition? Like, they can barely knock over a statue.
Oh no, I figured this would be an official thing as opposed to like rioters or individual people doing it on their own. This would be the sort of thing where there's a petition to get it removed, and because of the climate now, as opposed to last time that they tried it, they would probably be successful. Which is a shame because it's beautiful art, if I remember correctly. I feel like I want to Google it, but I don't want to stop in the middle of the show. So people Google it yourself. I don't know. I'm sure you guys can come up with a Google search term that'll find it pretty easy. But I'm not going to do your work for you.
Well, yeah, possibly that one. There might be a drive to like officially do it, but like Mount Rushmore, yeah, the Dakotas don't play.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's. And I guess that's not too terribly far from Vegas, is it?
I mean, it's a decent ways from Vegas.
Really? So I remember watching. Sorry, my geography is not that great. What I know about Mount Rushmore is watching an episode of Pawn Stars where they visited it at one point on the way to Sturgis, and was that North Dakota or South Dakota?
Sturgis, is that in North Dakota? Yeah. I don't know offhand.
It's in a Dakota, so I think they're pretty much the same.
Oh no, it is South Dakota.
There you go. So that's all I know about that. But I don't know, dude. Fucking. Let me see what else we got to talk about today. You got anything? I'm sorry. Do you got anything else, man?
Well, the only other one, and this one is just one of those, like, maybe Darwinism really is a thing. Did you hear about the COVID patient that died after the family that was there unplugged the ventilator to plug in an air conditioner?
Oh, you're shitting me. Really?
Yep, that happened.
Oh, wow. Where was this at?
Well, shit. I think it was India, so it's not here.
Okay, because I assume
Yeah, it
there's
was India.
probably not here. But that's kind of what I assume, because what American hospital would you need to plug in an air conditioner, right?
Right, and what, like, yeah, there's a lot of crazy things going on in that one, but yeah, in India there was a family that was there with someone that was obviously intubated and on a ventilator to survive, and they figured, hey, it's a little warm in here, let's plug in that air conditioner. I guess we can just unplug whatever.
Ask, motherfucker. Jesus Christ. I wonder what this is plugged into. Follow a cord. Gee, they're the ones that deserve to die for that, not that poor person that was plugged into the machine. Holy shit, dude.
Right, but I'm thinking probably that
Fuck.
entire bloodline is probably a candidate for Darwinism.
Yeah, very true. That's Darwinism in reverse. When you're so stupid that you pass your stupid genes onto your kids, who probably end up killing you.
Also on the COVID
Shit.
train.
Speaking of it, mhm.
So, did you hear basically the government of Florida and Texas have both come out amid record hospitalizations in their states that they don't actually believe they have a COVID problem. The problem is they've increased testing too much.
The ostrich approach to a problem, huh?
Yes, if we don't classify it, it's not actually a thing.
Exactly. Don't look for it. You won't. If you don't look for it, you won't find it. So, despite the issues I've had with the way our governor has handled our closure, apparently it's worked pretty well. From what I understand, right now we've got like one of the lowest rates of COVID cases. I saw a map where like only 3 states were considered doing well with their COVID response, and we were one of the 3, which is pretty good considering at one point we were the 3rd worst for cases.
Yeah, exactly. Like the states that have actually taken this seriously and have been kind of intelligent in how they're, opening things back up, like it seems to have been going pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. And I understand why people have issues with some of the measures, and I also understand why people have had issues with some of like the stimulus packages and the unemployment stuff. Because if nothing else, they felt like some people were taking advantage of it, and which is true. Some people are going to take advantage of it. I've heard that this is hilarious because this strikes me as really funny and really short-sighted. You're going to potentially get yourself in trouble for nothing. From what I understand, with the thing with unemployment is they ask you if you're back full time, and if you say yes, you're back for full time, they stop payments on you. If you're not back full time, you could tell them that you could still tell them that you worked, but if you're not back full time, they will still give you a partial payment. And here's where the trickery I've heard is going on. People are going to try. So you're having individuals that have been called back to work, and as long as they miss one day, they're not back full time, so they can declare unemployment. Normally, this wouldn't be worth doing because, as I mentioned before, they take half of your unemployment check for each dollar that you make. So if you worked a little bit that week and made $100, they will take $50 out of your unemployment check. So normally, it's not worth doing that because if you're after a certain amount of hours, your own unemployment check will be zero, even if you're not working 40 hours a week, because the original payment's only $360. So it doesn't take all that much before you get zero unemployment. But now that they've added this $600 extra, that changes things for people with sly minds. So I've heard rumors that there's people out there that are going to intentionally call off one shift a week so that they can say they're not working full time, and then collect that extra unemployment. They'll still have to declare how much money they made, but since the unemployment check is so large now, like $900 instead of 300 and something dollars, they'll still get a pretty good chunk of change from the unemployment agency. And I'm very offended by that. You're taking what is supposed to be an emergency measure And basically, you're proving all those people right that said that we shouldn't be doing this. And I personally needed that money. And it fucking made the difference between me losing my house and not losing my house. So I'm really appreciative that it happened. And I'm kind of offended that these people are proving everyone right when it was such a benefit to me. And I honestly think it was something that, was good.
Well, I mean, we always have to just keep in mind that there's always going to be somewhere around like 3% of the population that are just absolute fucking scumbags.
Yeah, yeah, but I've heard it more often than I like too. I'm like, I go, am I in the minority here? Am I, am I doing? I try to be an honest person. I mean, I mostly because it's way easier to be honest, and I'm a lazy person. So, if you don't lie and don't try to cheat and steal, it's a lot easier to keep track of your life. Um, but and don't get me wrong, I like money just as much as the next guy, but I wouldn't feel right doing that. It's not money you deserve.
Well, and just the entire thing is like, it's going to end up biting him in the ass long term anyway. It's going to be something there that's going to get fucked up. Like, just quit trying to beat the system.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the irony of it is these are banquet workers at the country club I'm working at, and some of them are offered different positions in the club because there's no banquet things, and but they don't think they're gonna make enough money for that, so they're just gonna collect unemployment and to work at a random occasional party event. There's not gonna be any fucking party events. It's already a fucking done deal. At one point they thought they were going to be able to get a little work in because we were going to try to do like the Sunday barbecues and a 4th of July barbecue, and we have a Father's Day barbecue coming up this Sunday. Well, fuck, the Father's Day barbecue has 138 people attending it right now, and it's not the day of the event, so and we've been losing people every day. We're not going to have any special events. There's going to be no banquet servers at all this season. So anybody who's turning down jobs at the club to think that they're work the occasional banquet thing and and get unemployment is sadly fucking mistaken. And I've heard two of them that took jobs at the club in various capacities, saying that now that they're not making enough money at their regular jobs, so they're going to do this banquet thing. Hold on a second, my dog's trying to get in my lap and she almost fell over. Come here, stupid. You're gonna hurt yourself. And they've said, so basically they think they're going to leave their job because they're not making enough money at it and go back to being unemployment. And guess what? It doesn't fucking work like that. If you take a job, even if it's for 1 week, you get a paycheck from them and then you decide you don't want to work there anymore, you're not going to get any fucking unemployment after that. Not unless for some crazy reason the business doesn't say that you quit. Why would they pay you for your unemployment when they offered you a job and you walked away from it? And these people think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't get that sort of thing. Like, people that just consistently try to game the system, like, if they just took that much effort to be good at their job, they wouldn't even have these worries.
Yeah. And it's the banquet server position is a weird one because they make really, really fucking good money, but they never know when they're working. Normally, we have a really busy club season. They're working almost every day, and they make a ridiculous amount. I don't know how much they make exactly, but I know someone that was working that got a job because there's no banquet things at a $15 an hour position and got their first check and said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do this. It's not nearly enough money." I'm like, "Well, shit." So these people that are just working random parties were apparently making really good money, which by the way, I also thought was really fucking funny. You knew how many hours you were going to work a week. They told you how much you're going to get paid, and it took until you got your first check and looked at it to figure out that you're not going to make enough money. Like, do you do math? Shit, man, people amaze me sometimes.
Yeah, people are dumb. They really are.
Oh yeah, once again, the theme of our show. The theme of our show over and over and over again. People are dumb. But back to being dumb, and also related to India, since you were speaking about them earlier. I've looked up more details about this little tiff between China and India, and it's a really interesting situation, dude. Do you know a lot about it?
No, I know absolutely nothing about it.
Okay. Supposedly there's a piece of land basically that borders India and China that they fight about all the time. One of them says they own it, the other one says that they own it. It's an important piece of land because it's like through the Himalayas, and it's basically the only way to get through there. So whoever controls that basically controls that border and who comes and goes, because that's there's no being the Himalayas, there's very few paths through there. Uh, Several things have happened lately. First off, China has brought in a whole bunch of machinery and is cutting a trail through through the Himalayas to that area to make it easier to get to, which is a worrying thing right there to start off with. Um, the problems that began, I guess, because China walked in and built like a couple observation towers and put up some tents and shit like that. That was supposedly in India's territory. Uh, in India, and said that's bullshit. They talked back and forth, and they agreed to apparently de-escalate the situation, and the Chinese backed away. I guess a group of Indian soldiers came in and like they knocked down the structures and burned the tents and shit like that. And then shortly after that, a large group of Chinese soldiers came in and confronted them. Words were said, and who knows what said exactly. But then they engaged in hand-to-hand combat because I guess they're lightly armed because of the border, regulations and things like that. And basically, 20 people on the Indian side were beat to fucking death with like batons and shit. Uh, then, shortly after that, a larger Indian force responded and engaged in more hand to hand combat. Apparently, at one point, 900 soldiers were involved. Not a shot was fired. No one else died, but I guess there was like a multi hour hand to hand combat on the border there, uh, which is one of the craziest fucking things I've ever heard in my life. But when I say the Chinese are like trying to make the path through there, they've done stuff like cut holes, holes through the mountains, and apparently dammed a river and shit like that. So they're making serious moves on that border. The satellite images showed well over 100 like construction type vehicles over on that side of the border. So whatever, and of course the Chinese are denying this left or right and saying it's completely India's fault and what have you. But satellite images don't lie. Their Chinese are clearly up to something, and of course they're up to something. It's 2020. That's probably what's due in July or August.
Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, I don't think any like large scale war thing is going to happen. It is kind of cool that there was just like a mass gang fight apparently. But
yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah, other than that, I don't know what to think about all that.
Yeah, it's so much more to add into the craziness that we have going on that it's all so very overwhelming. On any other year, it would be the headlines day after day after day because obviously it's a serious situation. Both of them have fucking nuclear bombs, if nothing else. So it's not the sort of thing you can ignore and go, "Oh, well, that's their problem." Because if they nuke the fuck out of each other, it's going to affect us on over here on this side of the globe. Uh, and obviously, that's probably not what's going to happen. But dude, fucking China doesn't give a fuck, dude. If they thought they could get away with it and it would take care of the problem, I'm 100% certain they would nuke the fuck out of India. I don't think India would nuke China and anything less than a retaliatory act, but in that case, they probably would as well. That's a scary fucking situation. I know we talked before that you don't really have the fears of nuclear war that I do, since I was a little bit older than you, and that was like a really serious scare back in the 80s. But obviously, it's still something to be concerned about.
Yeah, I just don't think it's really gonna happen. Like the rest of the world will put both of those sides kind of back in line if need be. Because nuclear war, like, that's just not something that's going to be acceptable to the world at large. So if that becomes even like an idea, even places like Russia will go to China and be like, hey, settle the fuck down. And we will go to places like India and be like, hey, settle the fuck down.
Right, and obviously that's what I hope happens. But the world is a crazy place, and certain people have powers that they shouldn't, and you never know when the wrong person just happens to be in that spot. I don't know how far the chain of command you have to go up to launch a nuclear weapon, but shit has happened before where people did stuff that they weren't supposed to, and when you're escalating a conflict between two countries like that, fucking shit. Anything can happen. And it's not as serious as if North Korea got fucking, actual nuclear weapons instead of whatever shitty program that they have going on. Um, but it's still pretty serious. And there's something to worry about too. I mean, I know North Korea has nuclear weapons. They just don't really have a delivery method that would reach us. But it wouldn't be that hard to reach South Korea. And if you set off a large nuclear bomb in South Korea, I mean, it'd be stupid because they're shooting themselves in the foot. But it would affect us. It'll affect our weather patterns. We get a nice healthy dose of radiation, maybe depending on how big the bomb is. Sorry, these are things I think about a lot because, like I said, nuclear winter and nuclear war was fucking serious shit back in the 80s. We were under the impression that if enough nuclear bombs went off, even if none of them ever hit you, you're going to die of starvation within a year or two because nothing's going to grow because of nuclear winter. Uh, Obviously, that will probably not be a thing now unless the United States and Russia ever got into some sort of crazy war. Because even if there's a nuclear conflict, they won't be setting off enough bombs to do that. But still, it's not a good time.
Yeah, you're just a little overly scared on that one, Jay.
Possibly, they drilled the fear into you. There's nothing like having watching movie after movie where they told us we were all basically fucking doomed. Here's how it's gonna happen. Yeah.
They also said you could crawl under your desk at school and be fine. I don't put a lot of stock into these people and their ideas.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of people and ideas, did you see what Live Nation's doing?
No, probably something pretty shitty, right?
You are correct, sir. For 2021, since there's really going to be no concerts for this year, they've already put out their policies for 2021. And basically, they're going to push all of the liability and all of the risk for all of this shit onto the artists. They're making major, major, major changes in the how their shit works. Let me look that up 1 second. Yeah, they want. Rolling Stone says Live Nation wants artists to take pay cuts and cancellation burdens for shows in 2021. It's some crazy shit, dude. Let's see, where's the thing on there? Artist guarantees will be adjusted downward 20% from 2020 levels. I see it doesn't. They have the memo here, but they don't give me enough bullet points of what changes are. So I don't know what to point out. But some of this stuff, it's crazy either way. Ticket prices are set by the promoter at the promoter's sole discretion and are subject to change. Payment terms: artists will receive a deposit of 10% 1 month before the festival, contingent on the yada yada yada. The balance will be paid after that doesn't seem weird. Minimum marketing requirements: all artists will be required to assist in marketing of the festival through minimum social media posting requirements outlined in artist offer. They have to allow all their stuff performances to be used for a live tele and broadcast, a live webcast, yada yada yada. Where's the merchandising? Purchaser will retain 30% of artist merchandise sales and 70% to the artist. So they get 30% of that. Airfare and accommodations are responsibility of the artist now. And there's some really nasty clauses and stuff for like cancellation due to poor sales. If a show is canceled due to poor ticket sales, the artist will receive 20% of their guarantee. If an artist cancels the performance, the artist will pay the promoter 2 times the artist fee. So like if you're going to get paid $100,000 to do the show and you cancel, you owe them $200,000. And there's a whole bunch of other shit. Like I said, I don't know what some of this is new or what's been existing, but apparently all these artists get fucking screwed.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a lot of that is probably relatively standard. The only thing is like, all it really takes is a big time artist just to say, okay, well, screw you. I'm just going to work directly with venues.
Yeah, they can do that. Haven't artists already done that in some cases?
Some, absolutely. Like, and you also see that with like, so I know for sure there have been comedy acts that do that. So Louis C.K., before, he jacked off in front of a bunch of people and got partially canceled, like he just worked directly with venues and tickets were like $15 or something, but it was all handled like through him. so you didn't have like all of the ridiculous fees and shit like that. Another person that goes even further than that, Doug Stanhope. So the way he does it, he doesn't even book like actual like arenas or comedy clubs. He'll just find venues that he can just flat out book, and then again he just handles all the tickets.
So yeah, he just does a private booking, and then sells tickets wherever the fuck he wants to sell them for.
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea. So if you think about the way that they're doing like Live Nation or like other companies like that, essentially what they're doing for an artist is much like, say, if you own rental properties and you hire on like a property management firm, they get certain percentages and things like that just to deal with all the logistic bullshit. That's like that's exactly what this is. So yeah, like the things that you're talking about, nothing in there really kind of raised my eyebrows. Like those would be the type of things that you would negotiate in doing a deal like that. So like this isn't something that they're just springing on artists as far as like having existing agreements there. Like this is just their business model moving forward, and if artists don't like it, artists can go elsewhere. It's not like Live Nation is required to be in that ecosystem.
Okay, now apparently, here's apparently these are the things that are besides the 20% reduction. The big things are them saying they'll give artists 25% of the guarantee if it's canceled due to poor ticket sales, as opposed to the 100% that promoters are currently expected to pay. So basically, Live Nation's protecting themselves, thinking that if they don't get a lot of sales because of COVID and they have to cancel a concert because if you only have like 25 or 30 or 40% full, it might not be worth it for them to do it. So it'd be more economical for them to cancel it if they don't have to pay the artist 100%. Now, if they cancel, they only have to give them 25%. And the second one that I guess is a big deal is if the artist cancels a performance in breach of the agreement, the artist will have to pay the promoter 2 times the artist fee, a type of penalty that's unheard of in the live music industry.
Yeah, that'll probably be the one where like established artists will just tell them, okay, well then you go fuck yourself.
Right. Yeah. The 20% thing, that's actually not a huge surprise considering, the company made no money this year, so they're trying to recoup that and stay in business. But the rest of that's just bullshit worth them trying to, push the risks of doing business in a post-COVID world over to the artists.
Well, that's the thing. It's a back and forth. Like both sides are going to have to, take some hits here and there. But the fact of the matter is like Live Nation can't go too far overboard because otherwise it'll just cause someone to come in and do what they do, only cheaper, and artists will just go to them.
Right. There's got to be other large scale concert promoters besides Live Nation. I know there's a ton of smaller ones.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like there is a market there, and depending on how you have your cost structure, like people will choose other people.
Yeah. Yep. You got anything else to talk about? I got one thing, but I'm not sure if I want to get into it 10 minutes into the show. 10 minutes left into the show.
Well, we can definitely get to that. I think the only other thing, obviously, UFC tomorrow night. Did you hear about the weigh-ins?
No, I haven't had a chance to peruse Bloody Elbow, so I'm not unaware of any current events.
Yeah, so sounds like and I did watch it and it did look a little odd. So like the guy that was working the scale from the commission, Courtney Casey came up, was all fucking shaky, needed the ring of shame, and somehow weighed in 2.5 pounds under, because I think the guy just said fuck it, because like it was one of those things that she's sitting there shaking and on the scale and like he couldn't get it to balance properly. I think he really did just say fuck it, let's just say 123.5.
Wait, well, so she thought she was going to come and weigh over, did it? Because obviously they didn't bother to try to weigh her, before the hoop of shame came in.
Yeah, you don't request the hoop of shame if you're 2.5 pounds under.
Right. Damn, I wonder if she was over at that point. Yeah.
I bet you if not, she was right on, because like, again, you don't request that hoop unless you are within half a pound of the limit.
Right, because obviously they're weighing themselves constantly during the process to know when they can fucking stop, if nothing else. So it's not like she thought she'd go another 2.5 pounds and request a hoop of shame just for shits and giggles. So yeah, that sucks. Was she shaking that bad? I mean, is this a common thing?
Well, she wasn't like, it didn't look like she had Parkinson's or something, but yeah, you could tell she was shaky and kind of out of it. Like, it was not a good weight cut, and she requests the hoop of shame. Like, she probably either she was right on weight or she was probably over a half a pound to a pound. Like, it wasn't something that she was way over and just bailed on the weight cut because she wouldn't have looked that bad.
Right. See, that's crazy. And I know they're going to try, but these people know. I don't know. There's so many different things about weight cutting that I don't like. But it's crazy. The day of, if you're 5 pounds over or whatever it is over, I don't know what the numbers are. If you know you're not going to make weight, for one thing, you're stupid to keep trying. You see these people like so fucked up on the scale that they're going to definitely be handicapped next day because there's no way they could recover. I would assume a fighter at a certain point would just realize he's not going to make it, stop before he fucks himself up like that, and just admit that he's going to have to give up 20% of his purse to the other guy.
Well, I mean, there's also just the fact that like fighters and people that have to make weight constantly are very proud people. Like, they absolutely think they're going to be able to get there.
So yeah, I guess that's true, but I don't know. I do still have that image of Gabe Rudiger lying on the floor saying, "Put me back in, put me back in."
Yeah, but he was just being a drama queen douchebag.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Shit, I still love the Ultimate Fighter. That was such a fun season.
Well, it's supposed to be making a comeback. Like, there's supposed to be another season. I don't know. I think the whole COVID thing kind of ruined the idea of when that'll happen. But hey, supposedly that's supposed to come back at some point here. But so what was the last thing you had, Jay?
Fuck, I'm trying to remember what it was now. As we were talking, I think I lost it. Let me think for a second. No, I seriously lost it. I can't remember what I wanted to talk about.
God damn it, Jay. It was 2 minutes ago.
I know. That's horrible, isn't it? My brain is starting to go, I think. I have to write everything down. I have like reminders in my phone for like 15 different things. It's a horrible thing, dude, getting older, I suppose. I don't feel old. We've had that conversation before. I feel like, the same as I've always felt. I wonder how that works. I'm assuming 78 and 80-year-olds, as long as they're not physically in pain, don't feel like they're old. Don't you feel like the same person you were 20 years ago, basically?
Yeah, except getting out of bed in the fucking morning.
Yeah, that's very true. Man, leg day fucking sucked today, dude. I don't know. Either I'm getting sick or leg day sucked everything fucking out of me. Normally, when you work out, get in a shower, get ready for work. I'll be driving to work, and on my way to work, I'll be like, yeah, I feel good. Leg day fucked me up today, dude. I never got that feeling, and throughout the day, I just felt shittier and shittier. I was like, whoa. I don't know. Maybe I overdid it this week. Working out when it's this warm gets kind of problematic because even though I'm working out basically in the middle of the night, still in the 70s mostly in the 70s in my workout room since it's not heated or cooled. It's because it'll get up in the 80s in there during the day and cool off slowly, but not enough. I think that might be it. The heat drains me. You said that you work out in fairly cool temperatures because you keep your house pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I keep my house relatively cool. Plus, I work out in the basement anyway, so it's always going to be a little bit cooler. And I have one of those big industrial fans that I can just blow on myself.
Right, yeah, because there's nothing worse than being hot when you're trying to work out. I mean, I realize there's some people do it purposely, like hot yoga and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I was thinking, fuck that. As cold as I can get it. In the winter, it's not nearly as bad.
See, now
I have to put socks on.
For cardio, I will purposely make myself like overly hot. And I think a lot of that is to put me into that mindset of being just pissed the fuck off. So like this morning, go down there, don't turn the fan on, don't mess with the temperature at all. throw on some sweats, and do 3 hours of cardio.
Yeah, fuck that, dude. I've never done anything for 3 hours. There's nothing I would I don't want to do something I like for fucking 3 hours, dude.
Oh, I used to
That's just too
do so
long, man.
when I was in like my peak testosterone years, so like probably say like 23, 24, somewhere in that age range. Once a week, I would do just an insane like lifting schedule, just 1 day a week. Generally, it'd be like a Saturday. So I would go in, and generally I'd start out with like a huge like squat workout, and then I'd do an hour of cardio, and then I'd basically go back and do like a upper body workout after that, and then follow it with a 30-minute cool down of cardio. So it's just that 1 day a week of just absolutely destroying myself because I could. And there's something about that, something about just putting yourself in a position where goddamn life fucking sucks. There should be no way I can get through this, but goddamn it, I'm just going to do it anyway. Like, you learn something about yourself after about an hour and a half in the gym killing yourself. And knowing that you're only about halfway through.
I can believe that. I've never extended it that much, but that's the sort of thing I use for motivation. Especially when I don't feel like I'm getting results, and and it's I'm feeling sorry for myself because everyone. I'm sure if everyone else was doing this, they get big and huge, and I'm not. Right, but I have to remind myself of the small victories. I'm like, dude, more than half the world does not work out in any way, shape, or form. So you're already ahead of those fuckers. You work out 5 days a week, so you're ahead of another 50% of those fuckers because most people only work out a couple days a week. You're doing specific strength. Uh, so so really, Jay, you're only really competing with like 5% of the fucking world when it comes right down to it. And that just makes me feel a little bit better about the fact that I don't always get the results I want from working out.
Well, so that's the thing where you have to just adjust how you're looking at kind of the world. It's like today you said that leg day kicked your ass and leg day sucked. Like, feeling the way that you felt, really what you should be telling yourself is, holy shit, I crushed leg day. Like, I left it all fucking there. I am goddamn dead. Holy shit, I kicked today's ass. Now, there's other issues involved here where, like, I can tell you're not eating enough. If, like, you're, if being worn down and everything lasted throughout the day, it means that you're not replenishing yourself enough or often, or enough both volume-wise and, like, and just enough throughout the day. So you have things you need to change there. But that initial feeling of, holy shit, I just almost killed myself. Like, that's a great feeling. Like, that's the feeling you want.
Oh yeah, that's how I feel when I do like bench presses and deadlifts and stuff. But leg day sucks. But yeah, I crushed it. I crushed it to the point where I couldn't finish it. Like you had me doing 3-inch block pulls on deadlifts, and I couldn't finish them. I just fucking, it was not the weight was not moving, and it's normally at a weight where I can pretty much handle. That's how I knew I did a good job on leg day, when I fucking couldn't do something that I normally can do. I was like, okay, I wasn't able to finish the workout just quite, but that's I think fucking good enough. Oh, I did have a quick workout question for you.
Okay.
I'm doing Zercher squats, and for me, it's become the last couple times I've done them, I do them over the weight bench. That becomes a lot more comfortable for me. I figured that it's okay to do it because of how tall I am. I'm still pretty much at least getting butt to knee level, if not a little bit lower, before my butt hits the bench. It makes me feel safer. And the couple occasions where I've actually failed out, I'm able to just drop down to the bench, made it feel a lot more comfortable for me, and allowed me to take more risks lifting, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. So I'll do box squats here and there, where you have something underneath you at a point that it's it's deep enough that you're still getting the lift, so it's still like below parallel. And what you want to do is, obviously, when you're actually doing the reps, if you feel yourself just even scrape that surface, that's where you're coming right back up. You're never, allowing any weight to rest on it. But yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so then you think that it's a standard weight bench, so you know how tall it is. You don't think that's too tall? I feel like I've looked, and it looks like I'm getting at least parallel my butt to my knees, which is what the minimum of what you want, if not maybe a touch lower before I hit the bench.
Well,
But
it
it
depends
makes
on
me
what you
feel better.
mean. It depends on what you mean. Your butt to your knee, so it should be your hip and your knee should be parallel.
Yep. That's what I
Okay,
meant. Yeah, I guess.
because your butt to your knee, you're still like above parallel.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. That so yeah, it is parallel because it dipped my knees bend just slightly below parallel. I think the upper leg thing. So I think it's good enough. And as I mentioned, it makes me feel good, much better about the lift, much the way the safety bars on the bench press does for for bench pressing. Because without those, I'm always in the back of my head going, dude, you can't really give 100% because you need a little bit left to make sure you get the last rep off because you don't want this sitting on your chest. So now that with the safety bars there, I just fucking go for it. And if I can't get it, I can't get it. And so that's how I feel about doing the squats over that as well, because I just go for it. And if you fail, you're okay. You're just going to drop down. Where if you're doing Zercher squats and you fail out, normally you might put yourself in a bad fucking position.
But yeah, it's one of those things that if you feel more comfortable doing it that way and you're still getting the lift done the proper way, like there's not a problem with that. Like if that, makes you less stressed and allows you to actually just focus on your form and knocking out the movement, it doesn't hurt having a bench there.
Excellent. One other question before we get out of here. You have me doing a lot of hamstring workouts this week, and I've been doing stiff-legged deadlifts to do that, which you said is perfectly acceptable. I don't like those. I feel like once there's any kind of sufficient weight on there, I'm taking a really big risk of hurting myself. I'm trying to keep the good form, and I'm keeping it now, but it doesn't feel safe to me. So my last workout, I looked up a whole bunch of different things that you could use for hamstring workouts, and I ended up on weighted lunges. And I want to see what you thought about that.
You can do those, but you still need to do RDLs. You still need to do stiff leg deadlifts. Like those are an important lift. Like the reason that they're more,
I'll go back to them.
Yeah, the reason they're more important for you than like and weighted lunges are good, but you still need to be doing the other pieces because in order to give like a proper form in that movement, you have to be able to brace your entire body. So you have to be able to lock down your spine and keep that neutral, and you're working all of those stabilizer muscles again. Like this is the same thing we talk about when you don't do normal squats. And I understand you don't have an actual squat rack yet, but like that's the difference between doing regular squats and doing like a split-legged, like squat or a Zercher squat or like all of these other variations and not doing the actual movement. You're really just kind of cheating yourself as far as how many muscles you're really working. So movements like that, I think more of, I need to do this right, and I need to be thinking about the muscles that are contracting, and you need to feel that. So this is like an old bodybuilder like mentality thing that when you're doing these assistance movements, and I would consider like, an RDL or a straight-legged deadlift, it's an accessory exercise. You should be using weight to where you can still concentrate on your form and you can actually think about that muscle tightening. Like think about it right now. If you were to just to the air, do a curl and think about the bicep tightening and releasing, the more you think about that, like the better you're working that muscle because you're focused into that movement and you're making sure that that is the muscle that's tightening. So as you're thinking about that for something like straight-legged deadlift, you're going down, you're doing that movement, you're thinking, okay, I'm locking down my lats. And I'm making sure my hips are in a good position. I'm making sure my ass is back. As I go down, I can feel the hamstrings stretching out, and I can feel that stretch, and I can still feel everything else kind of locked down, thinking about almost kind of bending the bar with my hands to make sure my lats are engaged. Then you start coming up, and then you can start to feel that hamstring contract. Like as long as you're thinking about those things, your form is going to be 100 times better. And you're going to get what you need out of that lift.
Okay, I can understand that. So basically you're saying we're not just working the hamstring. If that was the intention, doing just lunges was fine. Even though it's a hamstring exercise, you want the other muscles to be exercised as well. That's the entire point of it, not just hamstrings.
Right. It's like if you really wanted to get super technical about it, instead of doing bench, you could go do flies for your pecs. Or you could do tricep pushdowns for your triceps. Or you could actually just bench and completely get your, triceps and your pecs and even some bicep in there and your lats. And like, there's a reason that there's like a main 3 lifts. And it's because they are the best thing you can be doing.
Righto. Okay, well, that makes sense. All right. Well, I guess we're going to call it a show. We're a little bit over, but that's fine. I want to thank the OG Army for showing up. I appreciate you guys. I want to thank my co-host, Big Dalton. And I want to thank myself. I did a good show today, I think. What do you got, Dalton?
2 things. Everybody remember, there are fights tomorrow night, which means there's not a fight companion because Jay is still a punk-ass bitch and doesn't even want to watch his own friend fight and talk about it with you heathens.
Well, if they fight, she might be on during the show. She's only the second fight, which is a fucking travesty. How is she not in the main card? They're both ranked in the top 10 in the division. How could they be buried that deep? And she's a fucking pioneer. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because it's a women's fight. It's a non-championship women's fight. It's like, and it's not like any top 5 woman that's fighting. And there's already a women's
logic.
And there's already a women's fight on the main card, and you just don't have 2 women fights on the main card. Because if you do, you're just asking for a nap.
And this is the one that should be on the main card. Both of them are ranked higher than people. I'm just making a guess. I have no clue. I haven't looked. But I think they're both ranked higher than the people on the main card.
I don't think that's right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
she's ranked number 6, and Lauren's ranked number 10, I think.
Well, yeah, those are the exact same rankings for Pennington and Marion Renault. Only Pennington was just fighting for the title. So, yeah, those are bigger names.
Roxy fought for the title 3 fights ago.
Yeah, but Renault is a much bigger name than what's her face that Roxy's fighting.
Oh, Lauren Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Oh, well. I won't complain anymore. What else you got, my friend?
The other thing I have, as always, a special shout out to all of you fuckers out there. So, fuck all y'all.
Everybody have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 6. Bye-bye.
Screw you, hippie!